It's reckless. It's dangerous. It's irresponsible for anyone to say this was rigged just because they don't like the verdict. Our justice system has endured for nearly 250 years, and it literally is the cornerstone of America.
We're back with The Big Deal. I'm Errol Louis. That was President Biden addressing Donald Trump's historic conviction. Joining me now to talk more about the political implications of the verdict and the race for president is a panel of my Spectrum colleagues. Gregory joins us from Spectrum Bay News 9 in Tampa, Florida. Tim Boyum is a political anchor for Spectrum News 1 in Raleigh, North Carolina. And Holly, I want to start with you. Donald Trump is a resident of your state, Florida. Is he going to be able to vote in November? Is that allowed for convicted felons in Florida?
Not in Florida. If he had been convicted in Florida, the answer to that would be no. There are very strict rules. You have to serve your sentence. You have to pay full restitution before you can have your rights restored. But because he was convicted in New York, Errol, he should be able to vote for himself in November so long as he is not incarcerated.
Aha. Okay. Now, what do you make of the president's brief comments on Trump that we just played? He's clearly trying not to directly engage on the issue, even though Trump keeps insisting that this local prosecution in New York was somehow directed from the White House.
Well, I can tell you that that message is going to fall on deaf ears from the president to Trump's supporters. In fact, immediately after that speech today, I interviewed a Republican congressman from Florida, Michael Waltz, who was one of several lawmakers who went to the trial with Trump to show their support for him. And I asked for his reaction to what Biden had to say. And he said, I still want to know why Matthew Colangelo, the number 3 in Biden's DOJ, was part of this prosecution. Why is it okay that Alvin Bragg, the prosecutor of a deep blue district, is able to campaign on get Trump? In other words, I've got the man, now I've got to go find the crime. And you know, it's not just his hardcore supporters who have issues with this particular case out of Manhattan. You have people like Senator Susan Collins and Mitch McConnell, certainly no fans of Trump. And they came out and said that this is a prosecution that never should have been brought. So there are still legitimate concerns about this particular case, Errol.
Yeah, you know, on that question of whether or not Alvin Bragg campaigned on a promise to go after Donald Trump, I have to point out, Spectrum News actually aired the debates. I was the moderator in some of those debates, and that question just never came up. This is something that we're going to have to sort of clarify, I think, in the future. Tim, let me ask you, Donald Trump's conviction appears to be driving a rise in donations to his presidential campaign. The Trump campaign announced today, in fact, that it raked in over $34 million following the verdict yesterday, which is actually a very big number. It's more than that campaign raised in January and February combined. Is that going to hold up, or is that just kind of a flash in the pan on the first day?
Yeah, you know, I think that's an important thing to follow and to truly understand whether it is just sort of a flash and things will sort of go back to normal as the weeks go by with this. What I thought was interesting, too, was the campaign said that some 30% were new donors, which that is huge for the campaign because they need this new source of cash. As we've been talking about for weeks, if not months, the legal troubles have been, you know, a huge financial problem for him on the fundraising front, and it was such a gap between him and President Biden. I mean, President Biden just released this, you know, the ad with out this week, and that has been playing nationally all over the place in North Carolina, and it seems like we're seeing it every other time. And so the president needs to get moving, and the former president needs to get moving on that front. But I do think it does show, at least now, sort of a galvanization of Republicans. And as Holly mentioned, even people like Susan Collins or Tom Tillis in North Carolina who are defending Donald Trump, who have not always done that, at least on policy issues. So I do think, at least short term, this is a huge moment for him. I know in some parts of the country, people are saying, how is this possible that it would actually help Donald Trump? But Republicans in North Carolina I talked to are very enthused, and some of them are going as far to say that this might win the election for Donald Trump come November. Okay,
we shall see. Holly, let me ask you about this. The narrative throughout the trial, and Donald Trump reemphasized this again today from Trump Tower, saying that the American justice system is essentially rigged, it's unfair, it can't be trusted. Is he proposing anything specific to fix what he claims is broken about the court system?
I would say if you're looking for a list of judicial reforms, no, don't hold your breath on that. Of course, from his perspective, the fix for this would be November 5th to win and to win big. So I haven't seen anything specific outside of that. But I just want to go down the list here. Here, Donald Trump has been impeached twice. He went through the Russia collusion investigation. He's been accused of sexual assault. He's had 2 civil trials, 4 criminal cases with 90 plus criminal charges against him, and yet he is still better off in the polls right now than he was at this point in the cycle in 2020. So if you've got a candidate with that much baggage, and has there ever been one with more, what does that say about Joe Biden as a candidate? What is going on here that none of this seems to be turning people off? And we'll see if convicted felon changes that calculus. I really don't know.
Well, let's look a little bit, Holly, at the calendar. We're getting closer to the first presidential debate. It's happening on June 27th. That's taking place, in fact, before Trump is scheduled to be sentenced.
Yeah, I would expect to see him really ramp up. He's been in that courtroom. He has said day after day in that courtroom that he should be out on the campaign trail. He should have some leeway to do that. He's got the conventions coming up, and then he's got that debate coming up. And a lot of eyes are going to be on that debate for a lot of reasons, certainly not just this. And I think, if you get outside of the news bubble, Errol, we follow this very closely. If you're a hardcore political person, you're following all the details. Most people don't know. They know he's been convicted of something and it involves a porn star, and there are other cases, and now which one was this? This isn't the focus of their lives. It's, why can't I afford to put gas in my car? Why can't I afford my groceries? Why is my rent so high? Why is the southern border still wide open? I mean, these are the things that people are focusing on. And I heard the RNC chair interview today. He said, we're going to focus and stay the course on these things because they think that is why they are doing well in the polls.
Okay, and so sticking with the calendar, Tim, soon after Trump is due to be sentenced on July 11th is the start of the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He's set to be officially nominated by the party, but it's a party that has thousands of candidates running for state and local positions. Are there any prominent voices in the party saying that a convicted candidate at the top of the ticket might be a bit of a problem?
I have not heard any. In fact, as we mentioned earlier, I think what has been notable is some of the ones that have not been overly supportive of him in the past, Susan Collins being one of those. And so I think it might be the opposite. And for him, if he's sentenced to whatever, if it's just probation or if it's 30 days in jail or whatever it might be, most legal experts I've been talking to don't think he's going to get anything substantial in jail based on this. But I think it becomes a huge galvanizing moment for him. Just days after this that they do that. One other note, though, around this time period on the calendar is, we're still waiting for the U.S. Supreme Court to come back in the coming weeks here about the immunity factor, which would have a huge impact on the federal trials coming up, too. And that will be another potential rallying cry for him or perhaps for Joe Biden, saying he's not above the law. But that's one other note that, we got to be watching really closely here in the coming weeks.
Yeah, that's right. That's coming up at the end of June. Thank you very much, Tim. Nice to talk with you as well, Holly. We're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, we'll bring you a preview of some of the major cases that the Supreme Court has yet to rule on in this term, including that question of whether Donald Trump is immune from prosecution in the federal election interference case. Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage, and click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.